Nighttime, the day's hotter goth sister. As the sun goes down under, a whole new world wakes up, and when the apes are asleep, the possums will creep. But there's just one question. What is a possum? Well, you might say it's that furry thing that crawls in my roof space and makes a noise like Satan dropping his guts through a hose. Well, you're not wrong, but it's more complicated than that. Did you know that there are 18 species of possum in Australia? They all belong to the marsupial suborder Phalangeriformes, along with the adorable gliders and the bizarre cuscus, the marsupial attempt at creating the monkey. It's a work in progress. The most well-known possum species, since they prefer our urbanite lifestyles, are the common ringtail and the common brushtail. These two, despite their proximity to one another, aren't very closely related. There are essentially two factions within Phalangeriformes. The superfamily Phalangeroidea. It contains the brushtails, the pygmy possums, and all of the cuscus species. Then there's Pteroidea, which includes the ringtails, the gliders, and some other possum friends. What does this all mean though? Basically, ringtails are more closely related to this, and brushtails are more closely related to this. But where do opossums fit into this equation, Burger McQuarterback may ask? Well, they don't. Opossums are part of a completely different order of American marsupials. Australian possums are more closely related to kangaroos, wombats, and even the thylacine than they are to the Virginia opossum. To make matters even more confusing, the word possum is just a shortening of opossum, meaning we're essentially using the American word to describe native Australian species. Understand? No? Good. Welcome to the world of possums. What do they all have in common? The defining characteristic of possums is that they're nocturnal. Everything about their physiology and behaviour centres around living in the dark. They possess a set of large satellite-like ears with better reception than Telstra, and they're more reliable than Optus. The bar's not that high. These ears are supplemented with big buggy eyes that can see well in low light, and long whiskers that help them feel their way around. Possums are mostly arboreal, meaning they live predominantly in trees, and as such they're amazing climbers. Their feet have rubbery pads on the soles and large claws, which help them to grip onto branches. They're also marsupials. Females hit the nitrous oxide on the pregnancy and eject their joeys medium rare. The bubs then spend the remainder of their early development in the pouch, just like kangaroos. Most locals have a love-hate relationship with the brushtail, the Aussie raccoon. On the one hand, they are quite cute, but on the other, they can be cheeky little bastards. As their name suggests, they have a big fluffy tail, with more bush than a 70s erotica film. They're predominantly grey in colour, but do come in copper and black depending on the region, and in some rare cases, gold. Their Latin name means little fox, but these are Australia's largest possums and can weigh up to 4.5 kilos. I'd like to say that they can go claw to claw with cats, but most of the time Modigliana's got the edge. They've been known to guillotine possums. Keep your cats inside at night. Brushtails eat a folivore diet consisting of eucalyptus leaves, flowers, fruit, and seeds, but also snack on the occasional bird egg or chick for a bit of protein. In the city, it's a different story, as they've adapted to eating items of questionable nutritional value and begging for handouts.
Try it with the sauce, bro. Trust me, you'll like it. Ooh yeah, saucy.
And to those of you with a veggie garden, well, it's free meal estate.
There you go, I've got the possum.
Don't be fooled by their prevalence here. While urban possum numbers are ballooning, they're actually declining in their natural habitats due to land clearing. Arboreal feather dusters prefer to make their homes in tree hollows. Aside from mums and bubs, it's one possum per hollow. Competition over these tree holes often leads to altercations, as males growl at each other and engage in the odd punch-on. They're equipped with a scent gland in their chest that secretes a fragrant reddish pheromone. They'll rub the scent of Hugo Poss on trees to mark these territorial boundaries. Speaking of communication, brushies do make some delightful noises when speaking to their peers. If shrieking like a literal banshee from hell doesn't take your fancy. Perhaps you'd prefer someone forcefully revving a bowl of porridge. Given their housing shortages, the roof cavity in your house is starting to look awfully inviting. Any crack's a shack. Parkour pooches do their home invasions so frequently that there's a whole industry based around removing them, humanely. It's a good idea to install a possum box in your yard to give them a place to stay. I had one living in the fireplace in my room once. It crawled up and down the chimney each night like an annoying Santa Claus. It even left presents. Much like the pub at closing time, their mating strategy is promiscuous and random. A male can sire several offspring in a season, while the female will give birth to a single joey, which will spend 4 to 5 months in the pouch. When they've outgrown the stomach sling, the proto-possum will stay with mum for a bit longer, but piggyback on top of her to get around, which is objectively the cutest thing in the animal kingdom. Possum fur has great significance for the indigenous people of southeastern Australia. Traditionally, they would sew the pelts of many possums together into a fashionable cloak, which protected them against the cold winters. Starting off with a small blanket for a baby, with more skins being added as they grew up. Although hunted extensively in the past, brushies are now protected in the mainland states. Tasmania does allow limited hunting to keep their populations under control, and some restaurants there even serve possum meat. Oh, yum. They were also introduced to New Zealand in the 1850s to establish a fur industry there, and have since taken over the joint. Many such cases. As if kakapos weren't already playing on nightmare mode. The ringtail is the smaller of the two most common possum species in Australia. They can often be seen traversing your back fence at night, like the love child of a rat and a monkey. Check out that tail. It has a nice ring to it. I wonder where they get their name. Their fifth limb is prehensile, which is French for it grabs shit. You might notice the underside has a bare bit of skin on it. This acts as a friction pad to grasp branches and objects. Brushtails have the same thing, but it's harder to see. It also has a characteristic white tip, which you can use to identify these possums. Ringtails are the targets of cats, dogs, and foxes to a depressing degree, but interestingly, cities have given them a way to play the floor as lava while avoiding these predators. Power lines. They literally ride the lightning. These possums are high wire extraordinaires, unlike their feline pursuers. We've unintentionally given them a little highway system, but it does come with a fatal flaw. Cross the streams and Nikola Tesla will send you straight to possum purgatory, leaving your body more fried than a fisherman's basket. Ringtails prefer to live in and around dense foliage to give themselves cover. They will reside in hollows like brushies, but if the market is scarce, they'll build themselves a ball-shaped nest of sticks called a dray. You can make your own dray if you'd like to help out these monkey mice, and as a bonus you can don the title Lord of the Ringtails. These voracious vegans consume a wide variety of leaves, flowers and fruits in the myrtle family. Of course, eucalyptus leaves have the nutritional value of church wafers, but ringtails have a way of bypassing this dietary hurdle. Their digestive tract contains a cecum, a chamber which ferments the hard-to-digest bits of their diet into a protein-rich pellet. The possums then excrete it out before eating it again. Two goes around ensures the maximum amount of nutrients are absorbed. Just think of it like an up and go, if your guts made it and it came out of your bum. Their call is much more subtle than their brushtail cousins. Less of a demonic belch and more of a petite anime girl sneeze.
Why do you sound like a Pikachu? Oh my god, look at it.
Ringtails are more sociable than the introverted brushies and form little sibling groups. This may sound adorable, but the possibility of a posse of posturing possums has me heaps spooked. In addition, they're believed to be the only possum species in which the male helps care for the young. Like this video if you think that's wholesome. Now what about all those other possums? I won't go through all of them, but let's have a look at a few. The nullbenga or honey possum is a small possum with a big sniffer. These fellas use their stretched out snout to reach deep into flowers for nectar and pollen, which they exclusively feed on. Many flowers on the coast of WA rely on the honey possum for pollination, making it both a mutualistic and literal sugar daddy relationship. Obligatory testicle trivia. Male nullbangers have massive balls. Their testes take up 4% of their body mass and produce the longest spermatozoa of any mammal. Just another fun fact you can whip out at dinner parties. Scaly-tailed possums are one of the more obscure but interesting species. These strange relatives of the brushtail have a naked tail covered in scales made of keratin. It's gripping stuff, and the same material that makes up your fingernails, which allows them to go hands-free when foraging for fruit. They eke out a living in the remote Kimberley region of WA, where they make their homes in rock crevices. Another esoteric but beautiful species is the striped possum. I mainly want to highlight them because of those gorgeous markings. Striped possums have a pungent musty scent, and one of their fingers is extra long so that they can reach the beetle larvae that they covet above all else. The reason that you've probably never seen one is because they're only found in the rainforests of far north Queensland and Papua New Guinea. Mountain pygmy possums are unique because they hibernate, and they're the only marsupial known to do so for extended periods. You'd sleep for months too if you had to make your home on literal frosted tips. They're also unique because rather than tree hopping, they prefer to go bouldering, forever, residing in the boulder fields of the Australian Alps. Mountain pygmies are reliant on a special kind of food, bogong moths, the airborne sirloin. These moths migrate every year in spring from the lowlands in the north to the mountainous regions of the Alps. But increasing light pollution in urban areas confuses the moths, which makes them less likely to end up in the stomach of a possum than a Macca's car park in Wagga. Because of this disruption to their food source and a changing climate, mountain pygmies are critically endangered. Unfortunately, there are less than 2,000 of them left in the wild. The leadbeater's possum, aka the fairy possum, has a special place in my heart. Being found only in the central highlands of Victoria, they are our mammal emblem. The name fairy possum is super cute, but don't be fooled, these are feisty little guys. If you're lucky enough to witness one, you'll glimpse their epic parkour skills as they hunt for sugary secretions from plants and insects. Leadbeaters live in colonies of 12, but only one pair will breed. To survive the cold winters, they form a cuddle pile as a group inside their tree hollow homes. This is just the cute episode, isn't it? Leadbeaters were only discovered by Europeans in the late 1800s, and by 1930 they were thought to be basically extinct. Miraculously though, in the 1960s they were rediscovered near the town of Marysville and thrived again for a short time. But subsequent fires, including the Black Saturday fires of 2009, decimated their habitats. This story's a bloody rollercoaster. The leadbeater's possum is on the verge of extinction once again, and there are less than 1,500 individuals left, and less than 40 of the lowland subspecies. If that wasn't devastating enough, leadbeater's possums rely on the hollows of very old mountain ash eucalyptus trees, which have been subject to logging. Rip rip wood chip. Fortunately, the winds are changing regarding the protection of these forests after decades of courageous people and groups telling the government, hey, maybe we shouldn't level our precious temperate rainforest so that Larry's logs can make a buck. I prefer my hardwood erect, thank you. It's the only way life can continue. The battle for the leadbeater's habitat is far from over, but with the potential for a great forest national park, which would protect the entire region, there may be a future for the fairy possum yet. Well, I hope you learned something today. And if you didn't, what's wrong with you? Possums are interesting little critters. It's amazing to think about a whole world that comes alive when we're asleep. Plus, there's more species than you can poke a prehensile tail at. And I didn't even get into the gliders. Maybe another time. The tree of life is big, and only the best climbers get to the top. In some ways, these creatures represent the distilled, pure marsupial, still thriving the way their ancestors did during the time of the dinosaurs. The big question, of course, is, will they survive us? Given their tenacious spirit and resourceful nature, the possum abilities are endless.